Hey guys, I've got a really interesting video for you today. It's something a little bit different, but it's really, really important. Do you know what B Corp is? Because I definitely didn't. I had a great sit-down coffee chat with Phil Hawthorne from Red Paddle Co. He's in charge of design and production for Red Paddle Co. and is incredibly knowledgeable and passionate about our environment and making sure we're doing the right thing into the future. In this video, you're going to learn about why it's important to consider a B Corp company, also look at the circular economy, the importance of making good quality iSUPs, and looking at iSUPs into the future. I think you'll find this video interesting, not just about Red Paddle Co. and inflatable boards, but really the choices that we have to make when we go to buy anything as a consumer across all industries. What is B Corp?
B Corp stands for Benefit Corporation. It's an American accreditation that's started to roll out across the world. And it basically means that you've been reviewed on several elements across your entire business. So it's got a link towards things like community, the environment, the governance, how you operate as a business, your employees, across the entire company. So it doesn't matter what department you're in, it doesn't matter what product you do, it doesn't matter what service you offer, it reviews it. And what you've got to do is, at the minute, they're going to change it, but at the minute, it's scored in points. So there's about 200 points in total, and you've got to get 80 to pass being a B Corp. Now, most companies get about 40 or 50 the first time they go. And then you work on it in chipper ways. Say, for instance, for us, if we're a national living wage employer, you get a certain amount of points for that. If you recruit using non-gender bias blind surveys, you get a certain little bit of points. If you're paying for national health, if things like a bit more serious, like child labour, slave labour, forced labour, anything like that, that all adds up. And the points can go from 0.09 up to 5, 6, 7 points. They're big points. There's not many of those. And we got 89 points.
Wow, that's high.
Which, yeah, it's pretty good. First shot around. But that was because a lot of the work that we've done, since we were founded, really, it's just who we are. So we were we still had to work because obviously the target's 80 points. I was hoping for about 83, 84, because then if we get knocked out, because they do knock you down, because you've got to go for an interview, and they fully review it. It's a full audit. It's like a financial audit, and they will. Yeah, they've got to, and it's quite intense.
And so for certain businesses, it's going to be easier to do, easier to achieve, isn't it? For you guys,
easier, but it's not easy. Because again, obviously, they've got to maintain standards, because obviously they've got to look after the brand, and they've got to show that they are actually, are you good for the planet? Are you of benefit? Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, businesses should be good for the planet, because if they're not good for the planet, what's the point? No one is good for the planet, but so long as you are proving that you are trying to be better and be better for the planet, not just the environment, but people, like your employees. Are you looking after them? Are you making sure that they've got healthcare in place if you're in a different country, or because we're quite fortunate here, but do you pay national living wage? If you've got pension schemes, you've got health insurance, have you got that in place? Because if you don't have that in place, like, what are you doing?
So you covered the stuff about the social and your workers.
From an ESG point of view.
ESG, what's that?
ESG stands for environmental social governance.
Yeah.
So ESG is the overarching. It used to be the CSR, corporate social responsibility. But corporate social responsibility got tarnished. You heard of greenwashing, and got manipulated. ESG, again, the same sort of things happening, but currently, if you say ESG, environmental social governance, or positive impact. So are you being good for people, the planet, the environment? B Corp is a badge of honour for ESG. So it's just one small part of the big picture of trying to be a more positive force in the world.
It's still the big one that comes out to me, and many people who are paddleboarders or getting into paddleboarding, is you're standing on and using something that isn't very good for the planet.
Correct.
And that is
It's composite.
a major issue.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
surely that makes you, as a B Corp company, harder to become those standards.
Yeah.
Because you have a massive problem with what your main.
Oh, our points would have been way higher if I can get my own way, which I've been working on for. Well, we all have, everyone, because we know that, because a lot of the stuff we do is linked to the circular economy. It's so important, because why would you take a resource from a finite amount? Because eventually it's going to run. Forgetting about whether it's environmental or socially positive, like that's just not a good idea. If you're going to take something and you're relying on that, that's not good. If you take something and can reuse it and reuse it again, and you can add value in other ways, say through customer service or other services, added value that way, that's just good business. But I think, going back to your question about the composites, yes, it is a composite. And we use things called product lifecycle strategies. So we use certain tools to make sure that we can help as best we can. Because again, like you said, it's not good, but we can be less bad. And if we're less bad and less bad and less bad, that's better than just being bad. So we make sure that we can provide spares. We use something called DFD, Design for Disassembly. So we actively promote repairability. So when we're designing a product, because a product is designed on pen and paper, you don't have to get to computers, you don't have to start using CAD. Like, you just need a pen and paper. And you've got to think, right, am I helping people get outside? Great. How am I helping them get outside? But then also, if I'm designing a product, say for instance, I mean, it could be a service, but if I'm designing a product, what happens to that product if it breaks? What happens in 10, 20, 30, 50 years' time when that does it go to landfill? Like, hopefully no. Because if we can design products that can be easily repaired, then great, you can keep using them. They can keep adding value to your life, to your adventure, your experience. If it is the time for its end of life, it's easily recoverable and can be recycled at home using home recycling. So they're more pragmatic things that we do. Different strategies we could use would be sort of low impact resource selection. So when we're picking a material, say for our pump, or we're injecting something, we want to make sure that we're not using a material that mixes materials. So say we won't use added fiberglass, which is a common thing in industry, when it can make a material more strong. It's a quick fix to do, but at the end of that product's life, you can't separate it. So that goes in the ground. Whereas with our products, we will use more pure materials, pure plastics, so that when they are recovered and reground, a supplier can come and use that material. They can buy it from the recycling plant and use it again. So it's more circular. That means that we have to do a lot more work making sure they're not going to fail. It's called FEA, finite element analysis. So you can see on a computer how a product is going to perform under certain stresses. So for us in the water sports industry, we're in the harshest environments going. Sun, salt water, you name it, our boards go in it. So we've got to make sure they're as strong as possible. So these are all things that we will do before we've even launched the product. At the minute, inflatable paddleboards at the minute cannot be recycled, recovered effectively, because they're a composite material. They're a base fabric which is laminated with plasticized material. So PVC is the main material. How do you recover that? How do you separate that? I mean, you have to grind it. You can't melt it down because obviously PVC, vinyl chloride, it's got chlorine in it. But it also, the way that when you try and burn it, currently it gunks up all the machinery. So there's not an effective use to recover that material. So the only thing you can do is either try and repurpose it and make it into something new. It's not that great. Or keep it in the system for as long as possible. make it as resilient and as robust as possible so that it won't break, which is why we do so much testing on all our fabrication techniques and material and laminates.
And are you working towards a material that can be recycled?
Yes, but it's really difficult.
It's difficult because you've got so many things.
Because it's a composite. Composite science, obviously, you have composite engineers, composite scientists, and these guys are working all the time on different materials and different laminates and different, because obviously a drop stitch is a weave, and you've got to think about not just the coat laminate, it's also how it's bonded, what it's woven, what material it's woven with and to. That's the dream, isn't it? Like I said about the circular economy, if you can get a material that's got value even after you've finished using it, that's not only brilliant for the planet and how nature operates, but that's brilliant business, because then you're not taking from a finite source, you're just recovering and keeping, because then you can add value, change it and bring it in again. I would encourage every business to try and do that, because one, it ticks the point from a planet, because everyone wants to be good for the planet. No one wants to live in a barren wasteland. And it's just, I think it's taking that accountability and saying, well, all right, we're not going to take the shortcut. It might be a bit more long-winded, but we're doing it for the right reasons. And if you can add value that way, then that's a positive thing.
But surely there's other industries that use very similar materials to what we use on inflatable hardboards, isn't there?
Yes.
And they are way bigger than us as an
Massive. Yeah.
And so are they trailblazing? Are they pushing development to recycled as much as you guys are?
I don't know. I don't think so, because...
But it would be very helpful if they were.
Yes, massively, because, well, this is the idea. They always say technology propagates from, say, the military or Formula One or NASA, and it propagates down. It comes down to commercial priorities, and I think we are passionate about the outdoors. That's what we all do. That's why everyone who is watching it, everyone is passionate about adventure and being near the water and being outside. So we care about it, and that's why we want to do the right thing, because we want to add value, but also at the same time look after it, because what's the point in going out of... it would be helpful if these guys did it, but multi-billion-dollar industries, you'd hope they could, but at the same time, if they are, great, but if they're not, we're going to do it anyway, because we've got to push. Hopefully if someone comes out with a new material next year or the year after that, great. But if not, we're not just going to sit down and wait for it. We're going to be proactive, because that's what we do.
Surely if other companies had the B Corp stamp approval as well, that would actively encourage them to make better products, recycled products, which is why we should all be buying into a brand that has a B Corp stamp approval.
Yes, definitely, because it's someone marking your work. Because if you mark your own homework, you're not accountable. Yes. Whereas if someone else is marking you and they're critiquing you and they're pushing you hard, then it means something. Yes.
So if we're talking about the bike industry or the SUP industry or the tent industry, it's all relevant. If it's had a B Corp stamp, it's hit a certain level.
Yeah.
For its...
They don't give it away. Yeah.
And that's why as users should be looking
End consumers, for that. Anything. It doesn't matter whether you're going around the supermarket, whether you're going on holiday, any business. If there's a B Corp one, I would try to support them. So we have committed to 5-point increase, because you've got to recertify every 3 years. So we've said, look, we're going to try and go for a 5-point increase year on year, which is going to be tough.
Wow.
Yeah, and that goes from our products, as we know, but also our value chain, our supply chain. So looking at our scope 1, 2, and 3, net zero. If you've heard of net zero, net zero is looking particularly at carbon. So scope 1 and 2 of a business is basically the gas and electric of a business, in summary. And the amount of gas and electric that you burn equates to a certain amount of tons of CO2. Because at the minute, the problem we've got is carbon should be in the ground. It should be here on Earth. carbon at the minute is in the sky. That's the problem. That's the problem that we've got. Now we need to get the carbon out of the sky into the ground. Trees do that, but they're not doing it quick enough because of what we've done. So we need to calculate what our scope 1 and 2 are as a business. And then we can, what companies can do is you can offset that, so you can buy carbon credits. Now, that's often seen with skepticism, because we can sort of say if we are burning 36 tonnes a year of carbon just in a small office, we will buy 36 tonnes of carbon credits. Great. If we don't change anything, what's the point? If we don't change the fact that we are burning 36 tonnes, it's a bit of hollow. And also, who's dealing with these carbon credits? Who are these people? Are they planting trees? How are they capturing it? Is the tree is this big, or is it a proper tree? How long does that tree take? Like, what is that? So it's met with some skepticism. So what you've got to do is you've proactively got to reduce your scope 1 and 2 to make that zero. And that's what we're also doing. So we're doing that. We're evidencing it in our impact report. A positive impact report is something that you have to do as B Corp. You have to prove to the world, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Why are you doing it? So we're trying to communicate this as clearly as we can, because every business has a scope 1 and 2. Every person who engages with a company will engage with the scope 1 and 2. Scope 3, as part of the scope, in summary, is every company that we work with, their scope 1 and 2. So our shipping company, distributors, factories, what is their scope 1 and 2? What is their scope 1 and 2? What is their scope 1 and 2? Net zero is every person in that chain getting down to zero. That's net zero. And in the UK, we've got to be net zero by 2050. In my opinion, it's not soon enough. Some of the big companies, so the more progressive companies, are trying for, say, 2030. But we really need to hammer that. And that's what we're working on as a one small part, because carbon is a small part. You've got to think about biodiversity, sort of rewilding. David Attenborough came up with rewilding. So you've got to engage, or we can look into water consumption, and inputs and outputs of our factories, chemicals, like are there carcinogens in those chemicals? Do we need to make sure that, because every chemical on the planet has an impact on the world. Some not as bad as others. Some are restricted substances. Some are substances of very high concern, and in the EU particularly, they're monitored and not allowed in. So we've got to comply to those, and we've got to keep an eye on those. And but we are a lot more progressive, and we do things that we don't have to do, but we do them because we were that premium brand. We had to lead the way, and hopefully we're going to try and progress that, and hopefully publicise it and make it a bit more, bring it to the forefront, because the key is to educate people, because you can't help if you don't know what you're trying to do. And if we help educate people, then great, they can go in every aspect of their life, because they make decisions through buying things. That's what we do, we're consumers. And if you go away now and you start thinking about, well, why am I buying that over that, then great. It doesn't matter if you don't even buy a paddleboard. It could be a pair of shoes or a loaf of bread. It doesn't matter. If you're supporting what you believe that aligns with who you are and what you do, then great.
If any brand's watching this and wants to become B Corp, especially in the SUP industry,
reach out.
Do it.
So even if you're not in the SUP industry, if you need help, you can reach out to B Corp, B Lab UK, or more than happy to signpost if they want any help to help them get on the journey.
So there we go, a really interesting and informative chat from Phil Hawthorne. He is such a knowledgeable and super passionate guy about our environment and making good products. It's so good to see him leading up the design for Red Paddle Co. If you want to find out more about Red Paddle Co, their B Corp, their positive impact statement, all that other stuff, there'll be links in the description below, and definitely well worth checking out their full website. If you've got any questions and comments about this video, please let us know. It's always great to hear your thoughts. Look out for another video that we're going to be bringing out soon with Red Paddle Co, where we're going to be speaking more about their design processes, the materials they put into their boards, how do boards get into production in the first place, loads of other interesting stuff like that. So look out for that video on our YouTube channel and on SUPboarder main websites. My name's Ruben, happy paddling, and I'll see you on another video soon.